ahead and
He goes, I'm trying to think what to say. I'm going to say something in a minute. But the introductory things for about the first 10 minutes took a lot of my things right out of my mouth. Thank God.
We'd like to hear it from you.
Robbie, did you stand for recognition? I don't think you did. How many miles did you travel to do that video, too? He put a lot into that. Thank you, Robbie.
It was a wonderful, wonderful video. I'm going to say a thing or two. Just what impressed me.
Or three.
How's that?
Or three.
Or three. Yeah, it's nice. I feel like it's almost like I had. Well, no, that illustration isn't going to work. Let me start it this way. I'll put a couple of things that were pretty close to my heart. I came down here to be the leader of a group in 1959. 1958, I guess it was, at East Mississippi State Hospital. And God intervened in such a way that we could stay. It almost looked like the jobs were going to be taken from under us, but you know what? Southern Gospel Heralds survived that. And one of the first things that came to my mind afterwards was I had heard a dad talk about we need a camp, and I knew we needed a camp. We were pastors at Fellowship Mennonite Church, and then, of course, with the churches involved in the singing and everything this evening, it's just thank God for that. I'm glad that story has been told. I'm going to say a few things just from my heart here, however. Alvin McCullen and Dusty White. Dusty's family were part of our Fellowship Mennonite Church over in Meridian. And we came out here. You wouldn't believe what this camp was before it was turned over to this zealous group. One of the things Dusty and Alvin and I did here that I enjoyed was fishing. We fished out here. It was, compared to now, it was a mud hole. But you all transformed that thing, jeepers. It almost reminded me of the transformation that God has made on the lives of all of us, especially me. But Alvin and I used to, and Dusty used to hunt and fish. They're both gone, I think, now, but if you're listening, forgive me for saying the hunting part didn't grab me. Quail and doves are too close to me, but I tell you what, I really like to fish. Don't ask me why it's better to fish than to shoot for doves. But anyhow, I came out here with them, and Dusty came by one day. You heard the story, but let me give it from Titus Bender's viewpoint. Dusty said, Titus, I wanted, and there stood well, after I see all the work, I was going to say half-built house, but I believe it was about a third, because you not only did finish the house, but you fixed it. Dusty and I and Alvin were roofers. We weren't quite carpenters. And so you did some real carpenter work on it. We were out here, and I thought, oh boy, this needs to go on to other things. And so we fished and we hunted. And I want to tell you one other story. You've covered it so thoroughly on the history of this and done so beautifully that the video showed more than I could tell you about those early years. But I do want to tell you, or repeat it here, about Duncan Gray. This has always been, and the whole theme to this time has been reconciliation and let's see, what was the other R word?
Renewal.
Yeah, renewal. Renewal, the thing that happens between God and human beings. And then reconciliation means that if we are children of God, that means that we'll reach out to each other with all of our differences and we'll let ourselves become a part of the whole. And I've seen both of them here. You couldn't have picked a better title. And as we were doing our fishing and they were hunting and I was acting like I was hunting, I could just envision what this could turn into. I'd heard Dad talk about it, and I thought about it for Fellowship Mennonite Church. And what happened one day was, I'm going to tell you about two stories that you didn't hear about yet in the opening. One of them was Reverend Porter. I don't know if any of you know Gerald Hudson. He ended up teaching at Eastern Mennonite, and that was not his pastor. Reverend Porter, R.S. Porter, became his pastor later on, but Gerald wasn't that old yet. He's a lot younger than I am. And Reverend Porter called me up one day and he said he knew we were planning to try and buy this place. And he said, you know what? My wife and I, he's an African-American pastor from downtown, wonderful person that I also worked with on the rebuilding of churches in what was going on in Mississippi in the 1960s when churches were being dynamited and burned. And he said, I would like to come out. We're going to make the lunch. All you have to do is show up and help us eat it. And we went, you've changed it so much in the front that I had to look, and I can't quite figure out which point we went down there. But we did eat out front. And the next pastor that talked to me was Duncan Gray. I have to say a word about Duncan, because this, you've told the many ways in which this has reached in and changed communities. I want to tell you, Duncan Gray, when he came to town in 1965, he was almost killed when James Meredith had been enrolled in Ole Miss. And Duncan Gray, he was my size then, and he was my size until he died about 3 weeks ago, which hit a real burden in my heart. Duncan Gray, up at Ole Miss, ran out in the middle. General Walker was the angry guy who said, don't let them do it to you. Don't let that N-word person in the thing. He should have stayed home, but he didn't. You know what Duncan Gray did, my size? He ran out in the middle of that thing, and he says, please come down. You're going to somebody's going to get killed out here. Well, it almost turned out it was going to be Duncan Gray, because they grabbed him, and another person I know, son of Silas Harrington, who was the pastor at the where we had worked at East Mississippi State Hospital. He was a pretty big guy. He ran in there, grabbed him, dragged him out against Duncan Gray's will, and thank God Duncan Gray was not killed. Duncan Gray should have, under ordinary circumstances, have never lived to see the light of day. But he came here in 1965, and in 1969 they asked him to be the head of the Ministerial Association. It didn't only, I was so thrilled that it went to the students, but you know what? The pastors weren't doing our job, and when they asked Duncan Gray to become the leader of the Ministerial Association, he's under one condition. It comes as an integrated pastoral association. No use for African Americans to go one place and whites go another. He said, if you do that, I'll become the director. And he did. And then he called me. He said, Titus, will you take us on at Pine Lake? And I said, yeah. And he came, and I'll never forget that time when I realized he had laid his pastorate at the Episcopal Church downtown on the line, probably going to lose it. He didn't. The people accepted the fact that this was a new day, and my lands, when I look around here, I say, whew, Virginia looks segregated compared to this place. That's where I come from, is Virginia. Thank God for Duncan Gray that day, and I'll never forget. I watched it happen as he pulled one of the African-American wives up. Oh, the wives came that day. I guess Pine Lake can take wives and husbands. And he reached down and grabbed the tree at the front of his, the other side with his other arm, and pulled her up to the top so she wouldn't go sliding down that steep path. I've been wanting to go up there, and I don't know exactly where to find it. I'm going to try yet. And if you see me flying down a path, that's Titus Bender trying to see where Duncan Gray pulled somebody up the hill. I'm going really to quit there because it was sort of the baptism of a new day for pastors of Meridian to follow Duncan Gray to a new day. And without Duncan Gray, I don't know what I'd have done in town here. My heart still throbs. And I tell you,
we could be thankful for leaders like you, Titus, that have made a difference here in Meridian, made a difference here at Pine Lake Camp. We still have a long way to go on a lot of the things that you're talking about. Maybe somebody has a question that you'd like to ask him about something here. A lot of history.
A lot of history.
And hard history.
I have to say again, I knew it was happening, but to see what you've done here this evening makes me say, jeepers.
In a good way, right?
In a good way.
Yeah.
In a very good way. God's been doing with you some things with you that he hasn't quite figured out how to do yet in Virginia. Go ahead and tell somebody that.
Well, you helped to get it started. Thank you. Somebody have something to ask Titus? No? Well, we'll roll to Glenn.
Wow.
How's that? When you look back over the last 50 years, what's maybe that's too big of an assignment.
Well, as I think I shared a little this morning, I'm so impressed about the way this property has developed, the number of people that have come on board. I remember going around with Titus to Gulf Haven. I think we went to Des Allemands too, and talked to people. And Titus is a great guy to persuade somebody to do something. He just keeps talking and talking. Sometimes that helps too. And we did find a lot of people that had a tender heart for something like a camp. I remember a lot of people that aren't with us anymore that helped. I think of Walter Root, who built the tables, the round tables we used to have up here, and Orlo Kaufman, who spent a lot of time here. And there's so many of you that gave so much too. And when I see it now, it's, as Emma said on the video, and I go along with it, in my wildest dreams back in 1964, 65, I would have never dreamed that it would come to this. I had in mind we'd keep it as kind of a rugged camp where we'd have to go with flashlights. And I remember some of the campers were upset when we put lights in the camp, in the cabins. They said, we don't want lights. But I think we all welcomed them. Now I'm sure really glad today to go in an air conditioning room and cool off. I don't know, age does something to you somehow. So it's been a wonderful pilgrimage and exciting. I'm glad at this point just to sit back. I think it's been a few years since I've been involved actively in camp and being a pastor, and I don't know if I was ever a counselor here. But directing camp, I found a lot of satisfaction in just being with kids and helping them. And now it's fun just to sit back and see what others are doing and their commitment to camp. And it inspires me. And I thank God and praise God for what has happened. And the people who put time in, volunteer time to build the buildings and just offer their money to pay for the expenses. thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been amazing.
If I can detour just a little bit here, I guess you gave me the authority to moderate. Seeing George Reno sitting over here, that is a real blessing to see you here. You are a big part of the legacy of this camp. Many campfires have you led people to the Lord. I know your ministering here at Pine Lake Camp, Brother George, has changed many lives. And I want to acknowledge that. And your vision of bringing people, filling your pickup full of people, bringing them up. And do you want to say a word? I'll bring the mic to you. I'll put you on the spot here.
Can't run. Hello, everybody. Glad to be here. This camp has been a great part of my life and my Sunday school class that I had down in Gulfport. We spent many trips up here in a little Falcon Ford with a pirogue on top of it, loaded down with clothes and shovels and axes. And up to this camp we came and worked and helped to build things here. So those boys were a great help. We helped out in cleaning up the church that was bombed, picking up all the cinder blocks and so on. But over the years, this place has been part of my life. And I'm sorry that my wife is not here tonight to share it. Last year, she sat in a wheelchair right there by me while I was trying to speak. But she's gone home now. She's been gone 6 months. And I thank God for a wonderful woman who really, really did everything she could to help us. Everything I wanted to do with the boys. Anytime I wanted to come to camp, she always supported me and encouraged me in doing it. And the last words she said, she says, "George, whatever the Holy Spirit tells you to do, do it." And she went home. And I'm still here.
Question over here, Warren.
Does that bureau still exist?
Does that little boat still exist? No. I'm curious of, is there any of those boys that you brought up here? Here. Stand up, if there is some. Yeah? Your legacy goes on. But Gerald Beadle. What did you think when you first walked through Pine Lake Camp the first time? Yes, you do. Put it up. They can't hear in the back.
Y'all can hear now? You can hear now?
Yeah.
You can hear now? Anyhow, the first time Judah and I came up here, we said earlier in the video, walked around Titus and then they invited us up. And we came walking around the property at that time. And, you know, their vision at the time, couldn't see it. I could understand where they were going to, but to see the vision they had, I didn't see it. But as years later on, when everything started developing, then you could understand what they were talking about. And Judah and I, after the camp was started, we came up here as counselors, and they had some of the Rocky was here and a few others. And at that time, we thought the boys were kind of rowdy, but to see these guys, what they have turned out to be in their home churches, the husbands, fathers, that they are is totally, utterly unbelievable. And I believe a lot of it that came from camp here, and at least I hope it did, but I'm sure it did. It's not anything that I did, per se, but it's just that the camp environment transformed a lot of these guys to the wonderful people they are today. You want it?
It-
Some recognition to Duane for construction of all this building
Yeah.
that Duane helped put up.
He's saying give recognition to Von Marner. And I was thinking the same thing when I first came in and look at all these pipes. Can you tell Vaughn was a welder? and you the pavilion and see how everything's welded together. And the John Opals redid some of the bridges, but the original bridges were all Vaughn specials. A lot of welding. And yes, I see Von Marner's touch a lot of places.
Duane,
Yeah.
when did all the churches become involved with this vision that Titus and they moved that?
That might be a good question for Glenn. Well, you can have that, Mike.
Oh, I'm not, Duane's saying 67. I didn't keep track of dates. I think it was somewhere around there. They all started sending young people to camp, and I remember trying to get staff. The first camps we had, we didn't have a director for a number of years. Herb Kelb was here, and if you look at the list of directors over in the lodge, you'll see that for a few years we didn't have a overall director, but different ones of us took turns and took a week and secured our staff by volunteers. So we had a lot of volunteers giving time. And then as the volunteers came and people learned about it, I think it was around 67 probably when it.
How did you find the churches that you worked with? How did you start connecting?
I think talked to the pastors, talked with people we knew or ones that were at camp. I didn't really start helping with camp till 69. So Emma was here helping cook and some of the others. And Ann, you were too. And so maybe somebody else knows more about it. Emma or
I was going to say Titus probably was involved from the very beginning.
Do you know how you pulled the churches in?
Trying to think. It
Maybe I
doesn't seem
can-
like I'm very vocal right now.
I think I could say one more. We, as a family, I think you heard, along with Ann Zimmerly, bought the property for $9,100 or $9,200. And then we got it with the purpose of having the churches in Gulf States area own it and run it. And we didn't want to keep it ourselves. And I think I said earlier, Titus was trying to get Em and I to buy it, but we didn't think we could. But our family worked together. And then we put out bonds that people could buy for $100 apiece. And so people became invested in camp by taking up those bonds. And then the money was paid back to us as a family. And eventually all the bonds were paid off. And I think the people saw the need of the camp and became interested and bought bonds. And then once they were here and participated in camp, like George said, it kind of took off a little more. And we've got different people coming. They found the goodness of it. Yes.
How long does it take to pay off the bonds?
I was thinking maybe 3 or 4 years. I'm not sure, something like that.
Real long. I want to say something. I think when you ask about how we got the churches involved, I remember there was a lot of discussion the first time we had a youth rally, because the tradition in the past had been for the church leaders to plan the youth rallies, and the youth weren't really involved. And I remember there were some controversial discussions about whether we should turn it over and let the youth do it. I don't know, am I dreaming about this, or is my memory correct? But I remember Irvin Maust, for instance, being involved and getting youth from the different churches to actually take ownership for the youth rally. And I think that was a really important way for the churches to get involved, is to get the youth to make some of their own decisions and did some own planning. And then there was Herb Kell and Orlo Kaufman that did a lot of work to get the churches involved. I just have to tell one funny thing about Herb Kell. He had experience in doing camps, am I not correct? I think, George, you probably were responsible for bringing Herb Kell. And I just remember that he had divided the campers up into two groups for their ball games, and they were the cool cats and the hot dogs.
Some of the documents that camp has to pour through, historical documents, this one is dated December 22nd, 1966, and it's a letter, personal letter to all Christians of the Mennonite churches of Mississippi and Louisiana from Titus Bender. I'm just going to read 2 lines. Pastors and interested Christian businessmen met December 10th, 1966 at Meridian to consider values and possibilities of camping at a campsite near Meridian. It becomes very clear that the chief reason for each of us to get involved is not, first of all, for personal advantage, but because an investment in this camp and program can be an investment in youth and family life of our congregations.
Good. Can you tell Titus is a mover and a shaker? Yes. Well, Shawn, you're sitting over there pretty quiet so far.
Yeah, that's just me, you know. Quiet. I don't like that side. Back away from the microphone, please.
What do you remember as a child at camp?
Most of it I'm not allowed to say. What I remember most about camp growing up as a kid,
Duane chasing him out of the cars with flashlights.
no, that was youth rally. You said camp. There's a very distinct difference in the two. Whew, we got to move away from that one. No, so what I remember most about camp was my counselors and how we, Gerald Beadle would have been one of my counselors that stand out. But how we used to wear the same shorts every day. I think he wore the same shorts every day all summer. And then when they had a hole in it, he'd put duct tape on, he'd put duct tape inside and outside. And that's, and that was his pants for camp. Like it was one pair of shorts, blue jean shorts, and he would wear them. I don't know why I remember that, but that stands out. But, but the other thing, and it was mentioned earlier, I think that the campfire, that always made it real. And it was interesting because it always got more real as the week went on. So I think we used to come up Sundays, and then it would be Sunday night. You had campfire. But as the week went on, it became more and more meaningful to you as an individual, and usually by the time you would leave on Fridays, or maybe even Saturdays. I think we went all week at the time, but. Our parents just probably sent us and said, "Don't send them back," and they finally sent us back because they ran out of cereal. But I believe that every year you just came back and you were stronger, and you would almost just pick up exactly where you left off the last year. But it would start off on a Sunday, and then you would grow all week again. And I probably came to camp, and I'm looking at mom and dad, but I came all the way through. I mean, I went to camp every year, and all the way up to senior. And I believe even as a counselor, when I was a camp counselor, one of the things that I just wanted to do was mimic these counselors who watched over us. And what they really did was they accepted you as you. And camp was always nice because there's no status, whether you're a doctor, lawyer, or a bricklayer, or whatever. When you come to camp, everybody's equal. Everybody's the same, and we're always brothers and sisters in Christ. And the counselors treated you like that, And I believe that shaped me in who I am today. Is this camp had a wonderful impact on me, as an adult.
One legacy I think I need to say about Shawn bringing to the camp board was setting goals. some of the goals that we're working with today began back when you were chairman of the board. Am I correct there, Shawn?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I'm looking around the room of people who are on the board and they still smile at me. No, there's one individual who's not here, and I'm not going to mention by name, but I think I actually got rid of somebody on the board, and that didn't go over very well. But if I can get John, Opal, and Ronnie to still speak to me today, I think that was good. Yeah, but it was an interesting time, at camp, I believe, because we were really just struggling just to keep everything together, and we were struggling just to keep our conference together, and we were just struggling just to keep the camp together. We were always in the red. We were running pretty lean at camp, and I work for a Fortune 100 company. And everything that doesn't work at work worked really well at the camp. So I said, well, this stuff really does work. It just don't work when you get too big is the problem, right? So, so we wrote goals, and we wrote, really, it was really 3 different areas, right? One was ministry, because that was most important, and we came up with retreats and marriage retreats and father and son retreats and mother-daughters, father-daughters, and it was one way because we didn't just want to be summer camp and families camp, and we didn't want to be youth rallies. We wanted to just offer year-round ministries. That was one because we believe that camp was it was founded on ministry. We wanted to keep that first. But the other piece is buildings, because there's a lot of buildings in Vaughan. I worked for Vaughan more than one summer. It's where I met John, and it's why I'm an engineer today, because that summer said you got to go to school and you got to do well, because you will not survive working in that machine shop for the rest of your life. So that wasn't spiritual, but it had a spiritual impact. But one was buildings, because you got to keep up the buildings. You have to maintain the buildings, and it's probably one of the largest costs, and you have to keep the buildings moving. And and we were building the lodge at the time, and we had some keeping some financials that we needed to keep, and the other one was just miscellaneous, as I think we called it. I'm looking for Cheryl Lindecker, because no, not Cheryl Lindecker. I'm saying Cheryl Lindecker, and I'm looking at Cheryl Landis, and she didn't like me at the time because I wanted all these policies and procedures and put them in the book and put them in the binder, because we have bad procedures. Because we have to be fair. We have to treat everybody the same. And people can't come for half price, and other people, have to pay the whole price. And she got really tired of me hearing that. But we were able to pull a lot of things together, and we were organized. And once we got organized, it was ministry and buildings, and it was miscellaneous, but it was mainly around our procedures and these. Our processes of how we were going to get things done. And then every year, once we got those goals, we'd write 3 each. So every year we had 9 goals, and if you was on the board, you got assigned a goal. That's right. And if you didn't want to be assigned a goal, you probably wasn't on the board very long. And because I wasn't doing all the work. I mean, that's crazy. And so, but what really happened was, it went over, and I will, I'm going to put a plug in here just for camp and myself. So I was brought onto the board to help lead the board by Howie. And Howie said, hey, Howie wasn't watching me. He's been watching me since I was just a teenager. And he watched me grow up. And he was my, he's one of my heroes. I've been reading all, I read all these books. And, and Howie's one of my heroes. And he asked me to come on to the board, and he wanted me to sit on the board in 1 year. And the next year, I was going to be the president for 5. And I was. I sat on it. We did a lot of great work, and we had a lot of great people and skills. And Sheila was on the board, and John, I mentioned all of them. Everybody's sitting. Miss Linda was on the board. She's not smiling at me at the moment. But as I was rolling off, we brought Paul Shelley onto the board, and I said, Paul, I want you to lead the board over the next 6 years, and he brought him on. So, so what I am saying is that we as leaders or we as Christians, leaders, is you need to make sure that you are, that you are intentional in leaving people behind you to continue to carry the ministry. And I believe it was, right, it's vital then, and it's vital today, as I would say, just don't leave it to chance. Make it intentional.
Thank you, Shawn. I'm going to give this to Jeff. Well,
Yes.
how long were you a director? You and Cheryl, I should say.
I was going to say I was a co-director for 10 years.
For 10 years. You're working toward it, though.
He's the longest. They're the longest.
Okay. Well,
And anything I say after this, you need to fact check with Cheryl later.
well, what's some of the changes you saw in those 10 years? It's not a trick question now.
Right. Well, Cheryl and I, when we started, we were blessed because the lodge had just been finished. A bunch of people before we were directors had put in years and hours and hard work and sweat and money and everything, and they had a lodge, and our job was just to share that with people and get the word out and figure out what people could use it for. Some other changes. We had somewhere in before we got here, we had gone from volunteer staff to paying people $65 a week. Cheryl and I, we decided we were going to double that to $130. That was a big thing we did for our summer staff. The LIT program. I don't know if that had, that's just a part of this whole tapping on leaders for the next generation, but getting junior staff in here to learn how to volunteer right away and follow these counselors
What
and
is
other
it?
staff.
Some of them
around.
might not know what that is.
LITs are leaders in training, and so if you're 15 or 16 years old, or 16 and 17 years old, yeah, see, you got to fact check me. And that's still going today, and it highlighted for me one of the things that I see in the video and I hear in the stories and just this whole weekend, people who go from camper to staff to board member to association member to people that make camp continue to happen for other people, just that great cycle, and to watch people do that. And LIT was just one of the ways that we kind of added into that and gave people a little bit of opportunity to prep themselves to be on summer staff. Of course, Matt Grable is, one of my favorite things that I added was I don't know if it was me, but somewhere along the line while I was here, we convinced the camp that we could have a summer director that stayed here all year with the executive directors around, and I think that's been a good thing too. So those are just a few of the things that I look back on and as changes. I got a little bigger over the years too. Not taller, just bigger. The pictures attest to that too. Oh, you're going to take the mic back from me now?
I thought
I didn't know we were going down the line. I thought this was going to be free for all, but I can see how that would get out of hand pretty fast.
Yeah.
Shawn really brought back a lot of memories because I was on the board then, and we were used to a more freewheeling style. So, that first year he got us to set goals, but then the second year we came back and we were supposed to report on whether we'd met them or not. That was just a really new concept. And, as I look over and hear the early years of camp, and it was all so much volunteers, and we could never have gotten started without it being like that. But there were two people that really moved it to the next level. And one was Howie, and the other, I think, was Shawn. So Howie was the first who really, he was the first, I think, one that we paid half-time. Is that right? And then some people were sharing with me about we really owe his family. Many of you know he comes from a construction family in Canada, the Sheedle Construction or something. And we probably wouldn't have made it, and he wouldn't have made it with the amount we could have paid him, but his family pitched in. And one year at Christmas, his family got together and said, okay, you're going back there, and we're going to make this work. And it was at about that point where camp started to be able to take off and serve way more people, because we had Howie here full-time. And then Shawn came along and really revamped how the board operated and brought his business experience. And those were really key turning points, I believe, in the development. And it took all these people together to make this happen, and under the power of God.
Miss Ethel, do you have anything to say? No? I think that was sort of final, wasn't it? Carrie?
I would like to see everybody that has been on staff, LIT, counselor, anybody in this room to stand up.
Anybody on staff for what now? Anybody that's ever been on staff here at camp? Any kind of staff?
Board members,
okay. What?
I say cooks and camp pastors and other volunteers.
Well, I hope that included camp pastors and cooks, right? Well, now stand up, cooks and camp pastors. Okay. See, camp works on a lot of volunteer. I mean, it's a team working together. Does somebody have a? You have a? Here.
I'm your first time visitor in your camp. I'm from Alexandria. I'm living in Alexandria, but I'm from Nicaragua. Thank you. This is the next one.
Oh. Lori?
Was the name always Pine Lake? Was there ever a question about the name of the camp?
Was the name always Pine Lake?
We debated, I remember we debated about making what we should call it. I think there was a discussion between just fellowship camp or Pine Lake. And somebody came up with a bright idea. Why don't we put them all together? Is that the way you remember it, Titus?
Yes.
And so we called it Pine Lake Fellowship Camp. There is a Pine Lake over close to Jackson. I remember driving by every once in a while. So we're not that one, no.
No, you can't.
It started in kind of a tense time there in the late 60s and then early 70s it was taking off. Was the community kind of suspicious about what was going on out here, or was it kind of thing where it was just under the radar and nobody really knew what was taking place?
I think my impression was somewhat under the radar. We didn't advertise it very much. We were just trying to find our way and do with what skills we had and get as many people involved as we could. So we're just trying to survive and kind of build and develop and got what we have today.
What I understand, they might say under the radar, but Orlo Kaufman and several were on FBI records. So, I mean, yes, they were quiet, but they were being followed in a lot of ways. Is that okay to say?
Yeah. And I think, well, this brings in another possibility. The church at Nanawoy was bombed 3 times, I think most of you know, and Emma's father was pastor there, and that's when we were down here too. And so we think maybe our phones were tapped. I got threatening phone calls, say they're going to get me or kill me, stuff like that. So I'm not sure if that was connected with camp or not, but some of the rest of us, and Titus can tell you stories. He had some scary times too as well.
I suppose from my perspective, it's best not to look back over your shoulder. That wastes too much time and effort. And on the other hand, you don't go advertise, guess what? I'm braver than you are. That's the last thing you should do. I always assumed that if you did the right thing, God would take care of you. And if you happen to get hurt a little bit, Jesus had quite a few bumps himself. So I don't think we tried to cover anything up, but we didn't go and raise our, none of this.
Hey, Duane.
Yeah.
I'll say something about that.
Can I bring a mic to you? Grew up here a few years ago.
Yeah, a few. My name is Cheryl Lindaker Martin. Milford and Carolyn Lindaker are my parents. They were actually caretakers here when I was born in 1969. And by the time I came here to camp when I was 8, which would have been 1977, I don't know if the adults, like my parents and you all, that we were relating to, I don't know if the adults were feeling any of still the stress from the things that were happening in the 1960s. But as a child, I do not remember feeling any of that. So whatever you all did, and my parents would have been a part of that too. This was a place of peace and has remained a place of peace. And yes, I did have the privilege of growing up here. Many of you all came and went from the other churches because you were farther away. My family we ended up moving to Lost Gap, which is like 10, 15 minutes away, something like that. So Dad would bring us here fishing, and we spent a lot of time in Jubilee Mennonite Church. My parents started that Bible study in our home, and so we were here a lot. So this camp is just part of my life as a young person, and so I'm very grateful for you all and just the part that you played in getting it started. And it was just a wonderful place to grow up for me. So.
Anybody on the panel want to talk?
Yeah, I have some words.
I bet you do.
I got.
Only if it's new goals.
No, it's not any new goals. Well, I am going to leave you with something for all of you guys to think about. But I don't like this mic. This one you can hear me. It seems like. Okay, Wayne. I opened it. He's been messing with me since I came yesterday, and I've been going for 9 years, and nothing's changed. And why is that? Okay, so when I came here yesterday, I saw a lot of young people, and it's interesting because I haven't been to camp in about 9 to 10 years. I have moved to Iowa, so we haven't been back to camp. And I was coming in, I was like, man, I'm going to see all these people that I know, and it's going to be great. And it has been great. It has been great. So I don't want everybody, because they're going to give me a hard time and walk out the door, well, you didn't miss us. All right? But there's so many young people here. And I just want to say to the young people, because I was once a young person here. And we would and we grew up in a little bit different time, right? So you would go to a conference, and you really wasn't allowed to speak. You wasn't allowed to participate. And you would go to camp or you'd go to youth rallies, and you wasn't really allowed to participate. And Howie was the one that got me involved, and he was the one that said, hey, youth have something to say, and they really can help us lead. And, and sitting here tonight, one is just kind of real that you sitting on the legacy board, and I laugh at that. They've been laughing at me all day, sitting on the legacy board, everybody my age and younger, But, sitting back as a young person, you're looking at someone who grew up with a speech impediment. And, whoever would have said I'd be here today and and be able to make the difference that I have. And you as a young person, whether you're 16, 17, 18 years old, step up and lead. And you can do just some wonderful things with your life. And you get so beat up and insecure. And I've been reading this book, and the name of the book is Unstoppable, Running the Race You Were Born to Win. Okay? And it's really two pieces. One of them is when the baton's handed to you, run. And it doesn't matter your skills or whatever, because God created you to be you, and run. And just pour your life into other people, because you have the baton. And the other one is, who are you going to pass that baton to? And at camp, it's so important that we pass the baton, and we pass the baton well, okay? Because it's going to be our legacy that we leave behind. And it's people that's sitting in this room today that don't know it, but they're going to be sitting on this panel in 50 years saying, wow, I made that difference. And all your buddies who are now 50 years old, they can make fun of you, but you stepped up and you made a difference. And the other one is to camp. And here I go, and everybody's going to say, this is why you wrote goals, and you're way out in front, and we don't want any more long-range plans. And I left the camp. When I walked off the board, we created a 5-year plan. Camp is awesome, and we have been, I live in Iowa now, so it's hard to say we anymore, but you have been blessed with a wonderful gift, and that gift is called Pine Lake Camp. And in this book, it's been speaking about the Lord fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fishes, something like that. Close. Okay. I am not the preacher, right? So I just want to get the facts right. Do 5 and do whatever, right? It's 7. I'm an engineer. Get to 7 and you're good. But there would have been nothing wrong with that boy sitting in the corner and eating his food. That was not a sin, right? There was nothing wrong with that. He could have took his little meal, because I can assure you he probably wasn't the only one that had food that day. There was a lot of people there, so he couldn't have been the only one. But he had something, and he offered it up. And it was small. It was very small, right? 5,000 people, and he had 5 loaves and 2 fish, and he raised his hand and he said, use it. And it was used, right? And it fed a whole lot of people. You have been given 5 loaves and 2 fish at camp, and for a long time we have done some wonderful ministries, but I feel oftentimes that we just squeeze it to death because we don't want to let it go, because we're scared of the unknown. There's millions of people to be saved, and I work in a very secular world, guys, and I probably work with less than 1% Christian people. And it's greed, and it's money, and it's everything else out there. And what they really need is Christ, right? At the end of the day. So I would say, hold camp loosely. Don't hold it tight because you always wanted to have screen and windows, and you want the lodge, but hold it loosely, expand, and bring people in, and bring people in, and bring people in, even if they don't sit in a conference church today, because there's hurting people, and they just need Jesus, and use the camp.
Good word, Shawn.
Thank you.
Is that a good word to wrap it up on? Or does somebody else have something burning to say? Is it okay to wrap? You don't have any announcements?
Service is at 10 o'clock.
Service is at 10 o'clock. With what you're saying, what I would like, if it's okay, if we could all stand, lift our hands up as if we're giving it away. We're giving this camp to the Lord. And let's pray a blessing on this camp. Dear Heavenly Father, you've given us a precious gift here of the Pine Lake Camp. We don't want to hold it tight and be selfish with it. We want to use it for your kingdom. I just pray that you'd open our hearts and our eyes of ways that we can share this place. Just thank you that this is a special place that we can come and see you in the wonderful and new ways. Thank you so much for the many ways that this place has touched each one of us in so many lives. We just ask for a special blessing on this place to go forward. If it may be another 50 years or whatever ahead, I just pray that you continue to bless this place. And be with us now as we go to our beds tonight. Amen. And you said 9:30 at...
There's 9:30 Coffee House.
Coffee House. 9:30 Coffee House at the Pavilion.
Service tomorrow is at 10.
Service at 10.